Hey everyone, so that's many words about me, but here you go. At Space Ape Games, these are the three lines of games that we have on mobile built in Unity. It's a real-time strategy games, a genre that we pursue. Now, the new game is coming out at the end of this month. That's more casual arcade racer shooter, and that's something that experimental that we are doing. And like any other studio, we're also working on some projects in stealth. I also have some hobbies. I'm part of the Google Developer Expert Program and UA Society as well. That's giving back to community, sharing knowledge, and more of a hobby kind of thing. Today, I'd like to share some info and information and knowledge on these three things. How in 2016 and 17, we've managed to supercharge our UA activities with tools that we built in-house and applied third-party tools as well. Then we'd like to talk about creatives and creative asset trends and what's happening right now in user acquisition world and how that's affecting our activities. And one of the other things that we learned, how to do new game, hopefully, that we learned how to do that, new game launch, different from RTS, now moving to casual genre. So let's talk about supercharging your UA tools. Supercharging your activities. So classic ads management tool dashboards, your games, then you put all the events that you track into your mobile tracking solution. Then you put all that data into cost data aggregation tool. We use Singular, and for tracking we use AppsFlyer. Then you put everything in a data warehouse. We use AWS for it, and all of the stats from all of the tools, they just go into there. Then, of course, we do some data engineering magic, and that's when we need to use actual human, our data engineers. And then we visualize everything in Tableau. There are many tools out there. Tableau is one of them. That's what we use, but I'm sure there are many others that developers use. So we were in search of what's best for our games, for Transformers, and tested many, many different networks and placements and various things. So we were struggling and wanted to find out how can we test with a limited amount of budget that we don't waste our money, and how can we be effective and efficient. If only we had unlimited testing budget, but of course it doesn't happen in real life. So going to real life, our analytics team worked out sample size matrix. We use margin of error on the left, on top there's confidence level, so you can choose the margin of error that you'd like to use and the confidence levels that you choose. To begin with, we were testing different countries and channels. So we were working with around 6,000 to 9,000 to 2,500 installs to evaluate which channels are good for our game. But then, when we wanted to evaluate effectiveness of the creative or sub-publisher ID within the network, that sample size is too big. So we then worked out something lower than that. And statistically significant, according to our data scientist. He said, if you want to evaluate just the creative, just as a publisher ID, around 65 or 70 or 90 installs should be enough. And that's how we decided to test profitably and without breaking the bank. There are alternative ways, of course, to A/B test your product and also partially UA. There's a Google Play early access, as you heard yesterday from Google. So you can test different devices. You can even test your user acquisition, some part of it. There are not all of the channels, and see the country's performance. Then stability, the game features, and all of these things that's available to everyone globally with early access feature. We've done that kind of test on one of our alpha games recently, and it was pretty good. We've been able to collect feedback from users very quickly, and it also helped us not to spend too much money as well. That's one of the examples. Early access success with Omnidron is a gaming startup in Barcelona. I will not play the video, but you can access this video within the slides. I'll share the link later on. So what's new and impactful? Because the topic of this talk today is to share with you what's new and impactful this year, end of 2016 and 17, beginning of 17. We had classic, let's say, UA, naming conventions problem. UA managers are messy. We make up lots of naming conventions when we build campaigns. And we test it and we call it English, and hopefully that's US, and hopefully that's something else. All of the Transformers Spanish iOS, what does that mean? Does it cover all the Spanish countries or just Spain? Then the same with French. Japanese, obviously it's only Japan, but tier 1, what does tier 1 mean? And all of these things, classic. 6 months later, how can you analyze? How you can compare? So if 6 months later or 12 months later you have a new game and you want to compare with what you've done before, with those kind of naming conventions, that was difficult. And we've learned that from our previous mistake that we've done with one of our older games. So what we decided to do, we decided to put metadata in empty spaces. Campaign names, creative names, some channels have ad set names in the middle, 3 layers. And then this is a Facebook example. So here you can see that we built lookalike audience, 10%. Then we used automated bidding, OCPM. And here we can see that we've targeted Netherlands with Dutch localized video that is 30 seconds long, and it is in portrait orientation. Here's another example. That's from Google Ads, video creatives. So similar thing, English, 30 seconds video in English, also portrait orientation. So sometimes we have in portrait, sometimes we have in landscape, and then other times when it's available, we also have square videos. And that's where the magic happens. Because once that collected metadata gets into that place, we tear it apart, we cluster it into buckets, and it's available to analysts and to user acquisition managers as packaged data within our Tableau. And as seen on TV, of course, it works like that. Not really. But the packaged data does work similar to this. So this is one of the examples how we use these packaged data to visualize and help us make a decision. So this particular scatter point visualization was designed by my colleague, Nick Boulet. So here we put on the axis that we want to break even within a certain amount of period, and we want to evaluate which length of the video performs best per platform. You can apply country and network. In this case, it's platform only, and length and profitability as well. So we want videos to reach 100% plus. And you can see that iOS, 130%, so obviously it's very profitable, and it's 20 seconds long video. And the circle, the size of the circle means how big is the audience. So further to the right, it's bigger sample. Further to the left, it's a smaller sample. So hopefully, takeaway number 1 would be, I would recommend to fill empty spaces with useful metadata. Because something that you don't get through the backend or server or tracking or anything like that, and you still have empty spaces, fill it with something useful. Fill it with something you can use later. So let's talk about creatives. As you know, there are numerous different sizes. There are animated GIFs, statics, many different things. Then some of the things, let's play the creatives from some videos from one of our creators. This is Transformers Earth Wars, one of our game launches from last summer in June. And then we sometimes make these kind of creatives as well. That's our new game, Fastlane Road to Revenge. As you can see, it's arcade-style racer shooter. You blow stuff up, you collect points, collect dollars and diamonds, and race all the way. And one one of the prides for this particular game and what we're doing now is we're featuring influencers, our YouTube influencers within the game as well. Here's another example of Transformers. It's slightly different creative without gameplay, and it features our latest bots that are based on animals. It's called Beast Wars. And this beautiful creative is made by one of our ad partners, Yellowhead. So with all of these creatives, and you see different orientation on mobile devices, what's more important than that? So we measure portrait, landscape, square, different lengths, and so on. What's next? We want to make sure that we connect our ads to store pages. So these are storefronts, they're our shops with our games, and then we want to make sure that we use all of the assets in the best way. So the most impactful for iOS is icon to compare with Android. And then you can see that videos are more important on Android, naturally, because they're on top of the banner. And for iOS, a little bit less, but still important. Then we can see the description is more important for Android, naturally, because they use that as a metadata. There are no keywords behind Android, but if you use your description wisely enough, they can help your search ranking. And the feature graphic as well, they're on the top. We use a couple of different tools. These tools are Google Play Experiments, which is free. It's perfect for Android devices. And then for iOS, we use paid feature Store Maven. And here is a demonstration how we decided to connect store page. These are some of our ads. Then we use the same screenshot or feature graphic on the top in the store page. And by doing that, you create a funnel for new users that once they see your ad, and then they click on it, they go into the store page inside App Store or Google Play. They're not surprised. They're seeing what they're expecting. They're downloading the game. That kind of approach last year with Transformers helped us increase click-to-install conversion rate by 2 and lower our CPIs as well. So what's new and impactful in the world of video? So this is based on our ad partners data. That's real. And that's for the past 4 quarters from second quarter of 2016. We can see that Facebook creative performance skewed majorly towards video. And you can see that right now in the past quarter, it's 95% video. We can also see the performance by video type. And landscape combines really small percentage. 37% are in portrait, and surprisingly, I was actually surprised to see that square video takes the biggest chunk. Then here's an example of Google Creative performance as well. We can see that interstitial and banner going up and down but kind of tailing away, but the text and video is growing. Text is AdWords search. And that's another good example. This is another data point from Vungle. That's one of the video networks that we use. We also use AdColony, Uplovin, and Unity. But that's a good demonstration that you can see how important it is to have all different kinds of orientations, landscape, portrait, or both. On the left, it's by orientation, the breakdown, and on the right, the impression served. And we can see that portrait is really taking over the video ad space. The takeaway too for us is when you work on creatives, think about end user perspective. How do they take a device? Is the game portrait? Is the game landscape? And if you have all of the orientations available, it is more likely you're going to get a scale and better conversion rate. New game launches. So as always, all marketeers do lots of research, crunch data, look at examples, build simulations. Build simulations like this. In our case, we always try to figure out, is it front-loaded or is it, are we going to go steady? What are we going to do with it? Then we will work out our country mixes as well for Android, iOS. They're kind of the same, but slightly different. Some platforms are more powerful or more spread out in certain countries. So what's new and impactful for us this year? The learning that we have is going from strategy games now into one of our latest games, casual, racer shooter, fast lane. What we've learned that each game has also its own channel mix, not just a country mix. For one of our previous games, you see the pie chart on the left. There is a big chunk in blue, and there is a smaller after that chunk in green. So that's for Transformers. We see that that's the way it was profitable, and the way we were spending money on UA, it was profitable to spend mainly on those two, and then lots of small segments. And that affects our day-to-day work as well, and how many hours we spend on managing campaigns and optimization. But Fast Lane is different. It's a lot more segmented. There are more bigger players, and they share the pie. We also test lots of new ones, and that adds extra work for UA team. And that means that we just need to be more strict with the way we approach our analysis, we're more disciplined with the way we use our metadata. So hopefully, takeaway number 3, and takeaway for us anyway, once again, was to make sure that we always have a backup plan. So you have a plan 1, you build a simulation, build another plan B. Because when the things change, and you go with your game into a global launch, and you have this ultimate goal, so if you have plan A, B, and C, you will continue moving even when the things change. Because in natural environment, things happen, things go pear-shaped, or things change, and you don't expect things. But if you have a few different options, it helps you move towards the same goal that you plan to have. This example, typical UA team during global launch. And I hope that in the future, for the future stats, it's going to look like that. And it's going to look the same for Transformers as it is for Transformers and Rival Kingdoms. So hopefully, fingers crossed, for Fastlane is going to be just as good. So I hope that's helpful. And key takeaways for today, the ones I planned, is I recommend to fill empty spaces with metadata. Think about device orientations and end users when you build creatives, and always have a backup plan. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Saikala. So let me start with a question before we open up with to the rest of the audience. What's your view on the, let's say, new channels that are constantly popping up? For example, you showed their logo of Snapchat or perhaps Instagram stories. Do you look at these as possible avenues for game advertising as well?
Yes, we look at the new channels as soon as they come out. One of the latest things that we looked at is Snapchat. It wasn't available for mobile app installs previously, and it was only for branding. So recently they launched the dashboard, and now it's available for mobile app installs, and it's integrated with tracking solutions. So this is why we are going to test it. I don't know if it's good, or if it's too expensive, or if it's good enough for us, but it is definitely very interesting, and we'd like to test it.
How about the search ads on app stores? Have you tried these?
Are Apple search ads?
Apple, and also on Google Play, right?
Sorry?
There are also both on Apple and Google Play.
Yes. Well, Apple search are new, quite new, and not available everywhere. Google search is great. We always use it. It's inexpensive. It's intent-based. It's always profitable. We wish we could have a bigger scale, but of course it's not up to us or Google. It's up to end users. If you search for us, then we'll get something, but otherwise not. But Google search is always good. Apple search, we've been testing. It went up and down. I think its algorithm stabilized a bit recently, but it still works better if you target broad, basically. If anyone wants presentation, you just need to type in that short link, and you'll see the full presentation with the speaker's notes.
All right, it seems like we have done. So let's give it up for Saikala again, and you can still meet her after her presentation. You can approach her directly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.